The Belgian province of Limburg in Flanders, Dutch-speaking Belgium, is a region which has had many names and border changes over its long recorded history. Its modern name is a name shared with a neighbouring province of the Netherlands, with which it was for a while politically united, under French and then Dutch rule from 1794 until 1839. And in turn both of these provinces received their modern name only in the 19th century, based upon the name of the medieval Duchy of Limburg, which was actually based in neighbouring Wallonia, in the town of Limbourg on the Vesdre. For much of its recorded history, most of what is now called Belgian Limburg was known as Loon, French Looz. Loon was a medieval county, and when the line of the counts died, the area became part of the Prince-Bishopric of Liège, but was still often referred to as the Land of Loon, Land van Loon in Dutch. The original capital of medieval Loon is today officially called Borgloon, and the capital of the province is now Hasselt. In Roman times, Belgian Limburg, and probably also at least parts of the Dutch province and the medieval duchy, were in the Civitas Tungrorum, which had its capital in Tongeren. Prehistoric Belgian Limburg in the Ice Ages is assumed, like neighbouring areas of Europe, to have been home to dispersed populations of nomadic hunter-gatherers including Neanderthals and later waves of anatomically modern humans. Upper and Middle Paleolithic finds in Limburg are not common compared to findings to the south in the Wallonian province of Liège. In the Upper Paleolithic, archaeological finds also become more common in Limburg. In general terms, the area was part of the broadly defined cultural group known as the Magdalenian, 17,000 BP to 9,000 BP, and then the Azilian. The particular type of Azilian was known as the Tiongerian, which is in turn part of the Fedemesa group of Azilian cultures. Tiongerian finds have been made in Lommel, Zolder, and Zonhoven, on the southern edge of the sandy Campine lowlands in the north of the province. In the Younger Dryas, Limburg was inhabited first by the Arendsburg culture, evidence of which has been found in Zonhoven. Later, the Tardenoisian culture was shared with all neighbouring areas, Brabant, the Netherlands, and Wallonia. It apparently arrived from France. One such site is in Ruteskool in Oktlabeek. The Neolithic begins with the first farmers in the area who belonged to the LBK culture, arriving around 5000 BCE from the east, and remaining mainly in the south of Belgian Limburg, especially the southeastern corner of the province, between Tongeren and Maastricht. The sandy northern Campine lowlands were clearly not successful for them. Finds in neighbouring Dutch Limburg and Wallonia are more widely distributed. This was one of the westernmost colonizations of this first wave of farmers, and also a point of contact between farming and local non-farming cultures. So-called Limburg pottery is a particular style associated with this Western LBK culture, which is also associated with Le Hoguet pottery and stretches into northern France. It has sometimes been argued that these technologies are the result of pottery technology spreading beyond the original LBK farming population, and being made by hunter-gatherers. Another remarkable aspect of this version of the LBK culture is that some settlements show signs of being fortified, implying the threat of violence. The sandy north of Limburg appears to have become a contact area for hunter-gatherers of the Zwijndebont culture, who traded with the farmers. The LBK culture appears to have disappeared from the area around 4000 BCE. Around 500 years later, in a second phase of the Neolithic of the area, the Michelsburg culture appeared in the region. It was a relatively less sedentary culture, which once again showed signs of concerns with fortification. A similar Michelsburg culture appeared in the Rhineland of Germany. and it also appears to be related to the Chassayan culture in northern France. But the Michelsberg in Belgium had distinct local features. If it developed locally, local hunters and gatherers may have played a role. But archaeological evidence is so far inconclusive about what happened. This culture was apparently able to spread into the Campine, or at least influence it more. During this period, there are stronger signs that the hunter-gatherer Swifterbund cultures of these areas were becoming involved in pottery and farming themselves. In the 3rd and late 4th millennia BCE, the whole of Flanders shows relatively little evidence of human habitation, although it is felt that there was a continuing human presence. The types of evidence available make judgment about the details very difficult. To the south of Belgian Limburg, the Senois-Marne culture spread into the nearby Ardennes, and is associated with megalithic sites there. To the north and east, in the Netherlands, a semi-sedentary culture group has been proposed to have existed, the so-called Vladingen-Wartburg-Stein complex, which possibly developed from the above-mentioned Swifterbund and Michelsberg cultures. The same pattern continues into the late Neolithic and early Bronze Age. In the last part of the Neolithic, evidence is found for the corded ware and bell-beaker cultures in neighbouring Dutch Limburg, but much less in Belgian Limburg. During the early and middle Bronze Age, Belgian Limburg is often considered to have been in the zone where the Hilversum culture lived, but finds are not in Belgian Limburg itself. This was a culture found in the southern and central Netherlands, and the Belgian coast, and is considered to be related to the contemporary Wessex culture of southern England. During the late Bronze Age, Belgian Limburg received immigrants belonging to the Urnfield culture. These cremation-practicing farmers caused a population increase which included the sandy north of Limburg, where pastoralism was also practiced. It is possible that these people brought the first Indo-European languages to Belgium. As in other areas of Europe where this culture arrived, the Urnfield culture was followed by the Iron Age Hallstatt and Laterne cultures, both associated with Celtic languages and culture. It has been suggested that the original Urnfield population of the area stayed, and that the Hallstatt and Laterne cultures were the result of new elites moving in, with new dialects of early Indo-European. Rich Laterne burials have been found in Eigenbilzen, in Harspengu and Widschagen, Mew and Gruetrode, in the Kempen. It is likely that the various peoples and languages that the Romans found in the region arrived during the Bronze and Iron Ages. The Eber ones who were in this area when Caesar conquered it are associated by archaeologists with immaterial culture which has its roots in local variations of the Urnfield culture. It is during the late Iron Age that there is archaeological evidence for the development of a Celtic field system in the less fertile Campine, and increasingly social stratification and centralization. Even though the area remained relatively undeveloped compared to other nearby parts of Europe, compared to surrounding areas of Europe. One remarkable thing about this pre-Roman period is the lack of hill forts, a pattern throughout all of Flanders. Only one is known in Limburg, at Castere Kastet in Remist, right in the southeastern corner of Limburg. In the rest of Flanders only one more is known, at Asse, the Germany, and the België. The only surviving written source of information which is specifically about Belgian Limburg before it became part of the Roman Empire is Julius Caesar, who left a famous commentary of his wars in the region, which were part of his Gallic campaign. In this period, this whole area, together with other areas towards the Ardennes in the south, and the Rhine to the north and east, was the homeland of one large tribal grouping known as the Germani Cisrhenani, as well as a distinct tribe known as the Aduatuci. the Germani Cisrhenani tribes which Caesar named were the Eburones, the Condruci, the Pimani, or Simani, the Carreraci, and the Segni. The biggest and most important tribe were the Eburones, and it is they who appear to have dominated all or most of modern-day Belgian Limburg, with a territory probably stretching into the Flat Campine, Dutch Kempen, northern part of this region, and also stretching into neighbouring regions of the Netherlands and Germany. The other tribes are thought to have lived further south, in what is today Wallonia, or else just over the border in Germany. The term Germani for these Belgic tribes requires explanation in order to avoid confusion. Caesar also referred to other tribes living over the east of the Rhine as Germani, and he called that region Germania, the source of the modern word Germany. He may have been the first to extend the term in this way, apparently because he was told that this is where such people came from, something archaeologists have not been able to confirm. So he distinguished the Germani in the Belgic area as Germani Cisrhenani, and treated the other, Germani, as the ones living in the real homeland. Confusingly, Caesar also treated the Germani Cisrhenani as Belgic Gauls, a type of people he contrasted with the Germani, and his reports suggest that they also treated themselves this way. In fact, he said that not only the Germani Cisrhenani, but the biggest part of the Belgi were descended from Germani from over the Rhine. So possibly he saw other northern Belgic tribes such as the neighbouring Nervii as Germani Cisrhenani in a broad, racial sense. And Tacitus, some generations after Caesar, says that the Nervii of his time still claimed such a link. See below. Concerning the question of when this supposed immigration from across the Rhine happened, it was at least some generations before Caesar. He reports that the Germani Cisrhenani in the Limburg region were the only people in Gaul who had defended themselves successfully from the migrations of the Cimbrian Teutons in the 2nd century BCE. The Aduatuci, on the other hand, were descendants of those Cimbri who had been allowed to settle in a particular area within the region. So in effect Caesar used the term two different ways, and it is likely that the original narrow meaning of the word was specific to the people living in and around modern Limburg, in the later Roman Civitas Tungrorum. Whether or not any of the Belgian Germani, or indeed the Aduatuci, spoke a Germanic language is uncertain. The names of the leaders and their tribes for the most part appear to have Celtic origins, which is in fact also true of the neighbouring tribes across the Rhine in Germania at that time, such the Tenctarian Usurpetes. On the other hand, it has been argued by Moritz Gisling and others that place name analysis shows that a Germanic language was being spoken in this region by the 2nd century BCE. And there are also signs of an older substrate language in the Belgic region. See Northwest Bloc. So Celtic, while influential culturally, may never have been the main language of the area. The Aduatuci and the Germani Cisrhenani participated in an alliance of Belgic tribes against Caesar in 57 BCE, which was defeated at the Battle of the Sabes. Before that battle, information from the Remi, a tribe allied with Rome, stated that the Germani, the Condruci, the Eburones, the Carreraci, and the Pimani, but apparently not the Segni, had collectively promised, they thought, about 40,000 men. The Aduatuci had promised 19,000. This alliance was defeated after a series of events culminating in the Battle of the Sabes in 54 BCE. The Eburones and the Aduatuci rebelled again in alliance with the Gaulish tribes to their south and west, the Treverian Nervii. Also concerning these powerful tribes, it is difficult to be certain what language they spoke. although the Treveri are generally thought to have spoken a Celtic language. Tacitus says of these two tribes that they were not originally Germani, but that they wished to be associated with that name and not the softer name of the Gauls. The capital of the Eburones is named by Caesar as Aduatuca, and the capital of the region in later Roman times was Aduatuca Tungrorum, modern Tongeren. It is possible that these were the same place, except that the term Aduatuca may simply mean fortification. One reason for doubt is that Caesar seems to indicate that Aduatuca was near the center of the Eburone territory, and that the main part of this territory lay between the Meuse, Dutch Maas, and the Rhine, while Belgian Limburg lies entirely to the west of the Maas. Apart from the Eburones, the Aduatuci may have lived in Belgian Limburg, because they had a fort on a large hill, and their name may even mean fort people. It is thought that the Aduatuci lived in hilly Wallonia, but they may also have lived in southeastern Limburg, which is moderately hilly. Ambiorix, one of the two kings of the Eburones, complained to Caesar that he had to pay tribute to the Aduatuci, and that his own son and nephew were kept as captive slaves by them. But once in revolt against the Romans, he rode first to the Aduatuci, and then to the Nervii, seeking their alliance. After some initial success, the revolt against Caesar failed, and he conquered the area. He states that he tried to annihilate the race and name of the state of the Eburones for their crime, which triggered the revolt, of having killed his lieutenants Quintus Titurius Sabinus and Lucius Aurunculeius Cotta when they demanded to be quartered amongst them for winter. Ambiorix escaped into the Ardennes with some horse. Many others escaped towards the forests, morasses, and tidal islands of the coast. Caesar decided not to risk men in trying to pursue the rebels into such difficult countryside, and instead tried to encourage other tribes to pillage the area, a plan which backfired when the Sicambri crossed the Rhine and decided the Roman baggage would be a much richer target than any refugees. The other king of the Eburones, Cativolcus, killed himself with the juice of the yew tree, of which there is a great abundance in Gaul and Germany. The name Eburones, like other similar Celtic-based tribal names around Europe, is based on the Celtic word for the yew tree. Roman Empire, Belgian Limburg in Roman times formed the central part of the large district of Civitas Tungrorum, with its capital in modern Tongeren. This district took its name from a new tribal name, the Tungri. However, according to Tacitus, writing some generations after Caesar, this tribe had originally been the first to be called the Germani, and had started using a new name, while many other tribes are started to be called Germani. This would indicate that they were the same group of tribes which had included the Eburones. On the other hand, it is known that during this period, the Romans settled numerous people from across the Rhine, and these may also have made up a significant part of the ancestry of the Tungri. Under the Romans, the Tungri Civitas was first a part of Gallia Belgica, and later split out, unlike their western Belgian neighbours the Menapi and Nervii, to join with the territories which lay along the militarized Rhine border to become part of Germania Inferior, Lower Germania, and still later this was reorganized to become Germania Secunda. Many of the tribal groups which inhabited the west bank of the Rhine were dominated by immigrants from the east bank. To the north of the Tungri, in the Rhine-Meuse-Scheldt Delta in the modern Netherlands were the Batavians and Frisiavones and possibly still some of the Menapi who had been there in Caesar's time. To the northeast, in the bend of the Rhine, were the Cugini, who were probably descended from a division of the Sicambri, and probably the Batassi also. To the east of the Tungri were the Sunnici, and on the Rhine the Ubi, whose city was Cologne, the provincial capital. The Tungri, along with many of the tribal states of Germania Inferior, participated in the revolt of the Batavi. Tongeren was a major town on several notable east-west Roman routes, including Amiens, Bavay, Tongeren, Maastricht, Heerlen, and Cologne, which was a very important route, and Boulogne, Kortrijk, and Tongeren, which ran just to the south of the modern main road running Tinnen, St. Triden, Borgloon, Tongeren, through the villages of Overhespen, Helshoven, and Bommershoven. The more fertile areas south of these roads were more heavily populated and more fully Romanized. In the sandy north of Belgian Limburg, the Romanized population thinned out dramatically in late Roman times, under pressure from constant plundering from Germanic tribes over the Rhine. Within the Civitas Tungrorum, some information survives about subdistricts, Pagi, each with apparent tribal names. Most of this information comes from military records concerning units recruited from such areas. Two of the Germani tribal groups which survived from Caesar's time are that of the Condrusi, who lived in the Condros of Wallonia, and the Carosi, who lived in the Eifel forest just over the border in modern Germany. But the only surviving name Pagus which can be clearly associated with areas in and around Belgian Limburg, and that of Toxandria, the district of the Toxandri, which appears to have been a large part of the Civitas, containing all or most of the sandy Campine region in the north. This is not one of the tribe names Caesar mentions, but some have suggested could be a Latin translation of the name Ebuans, both apparently referring to Latin taxis. Others proposed that this group were mainly made up of immigrants from east of the Rhine. It has also been proposed that the Batassi might have lived near Geetbase, on the Brabant-Limburg border, but it seems more likely that they lived in an area closer to the Rhine in modern Germany. Two other Pagi which appear in records for the first time under the Empire, and which may have been in the Civitas, are the Pagus Veluws, apparently corresponding to the forest of Veluwe in the Netherlands, and the Pagus Catulinus, apparently in and near Heel on the Meuse, which corresponds with Catvelium in the Tabula Peutingeriana map. Franks. In late Roman and early medieval times, the northern or Kempen part of Belgian Limburg once again became very distinct from the southern part. It became virtually empty because of Germanic plundering, and was then settled and ruled by Salian Franks coming over the Rhine and Maas from the north, apparently from the eastern Netherlands, which was itself under pressure from Saxons. These were amongst the first Germanic tribes to become strongly established within the Roman Empire, and the ancestors of the Merovingians. They took up an older name of one of the districts of the Civitas, Toxandria, even though the original Toxandri may not have lived there anymore. The southern or Haaspengu part of Belgian Limburg remained more heavily Romanized, but eventually also became a core land of the Franks. The two east-west Roman routes through Tongeren, mentioned above, became a front line of defense for a while, and is sometimes referred to as the Limes Belgicus. Gregory of Tours reports that it was from the area of Toxandria bordering Tongeren that Claudio, in the 5th century, launched the Franks into military campaigns of conquest in northern Gaul, soon to become France or Francia, the country of the Franks. In Merovingian times, Belgian Limburg was part of Austrasia, and in particular it appears that parts of the Haaspengu were under the control of the Pippinid family, and later their Carolingian descendants. This family were mayors of the Merovingian court until they eventually took over rule more openly. Pepin the Short became the first Pippinid king of the Franks in 752. The founder of the Pippinids was Pepin of Landen. who was probably born in Landen in Belgian Limburg. Under the Franks, the region begins to be referred to with new place names, which last into the Middle Ages and in some cases into modern times. A GOUW was a Frankish administrative region, translated into Latin as pagus, and roughly corresponding to English county, or shire. The ruler of a GOUW, if it had one ruler, was typically a countergraph, but some of the larger GOUs came to be divided into smaller counties. Toxandria, in the Kempen, remained one such region. The eastern part of Belgian Limburg, bordering the river Maas and Meuse, was sometimes referred to as the Margau or Maasor. The southern part received its modern name of Haaspengu, found in forms such as Haaspinga, Pagus Haspiniensis or Haspania, in old documents such as the Treaty of Meersen, 870, but it was divided into 4 counties, which the treaty does not name. There were counts of Hespe in Carolingian times, but their exact territories are not known with certainty. By the 9th century, the Frankish Carolingian Empire eventually included not only the region of Belgium and northern France, but also eventually much of Western Europe. After the death of Charlemagne, Limburg was part of the Lotharingian division of Frankish Europe, which lay between France and Germany and stretched to Italy. After the death of its first ruler, King Lothar I, it was only slowly integrated into Eastern Francia, which was to become the Holy Roman Empire. In the period around 881 and 882, the areas along the Maas and in the Haaspengu were plundered by Norse Vikings, who established a base at Hasselt on the Maas, today in Roermond in Dutch Limburg. The Emperor Charles the Fat tried to negotiate with them. In 1891, the Vikings were backfought several times with forces of Arnulf of Carinthia, who had taken control of most of the Eastern Frankish Empire at that time. As a central part of Lotharingia, the area of modern Limburg was still deeply involved in Frankish politics at this time. Zwentibold, claimant to the Kingdom of Lotharingia, died in Susterin in 900, and had his support in the Kempen area. He was opposed by the local House of Regina, who had also changed sides during the Viking incursions. Despite their continuing conflicts with the emperors, it is from the House of Regina that the medieval counts of Loon are thought to descend. Although the exact genealogy of this house is highly uncertain, the area of Belgian Limburg underwent 2 periods of conversion to Christianity. The first period was that of St. Servatius, before the domination of the Franks. This was only lasting in the Romanized area to the southeast of Limburg, around Tongeren, and including nearby Maastricht and Liège. A second period of missionary activity started around 700 AD. After the coming of the pagan Franks, Lambert of Maastricht and Willibrord and others preached the gospel to the pagans who were still dominant to the north of this region. Out of these 3 Romanized and early Christian cities, Liège became the eventual seat of the bishop in the Middle Ages, taking over this position from Maastricht, which had taken it over from Tongeren. Another early saint in the south of Limburg was St. Trudo. Middle Ages. Belgian Limburg corresponds closely to the medieval territory of the county of Loon, French Looz, which originally centered on the fortified town of Borgloon, which had somehow become the center of power in the Haaspengu during the early Middle Ages, taking over from earlier counties such as Hocht, near the Maas. Hocht itself is in Lanaken today, and Avernus, near St. Triden. Avernus itself being in Hainaut today. It expanded from this territory into the Kempen to eventually encompass a similar territory to that of modern Belgian Limburg. The counts then moved their courts and residences from Borgloon, which was close to the border, to Liège. to more central positions in and around Hasselt, which has remained the capital of the region until today. As part of Loon, Belgian Limburg eventually became subject, not only spiritually but also politically, to the Prince-Bishops of Liège. Modern history. Loon, and the rest of the Prince-Bishopric of Liège, were not joined politically with the rest of what would become Belgium until the French Revolution. Nevertheless, in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries the population of Loon was constantly and badly affected by the wars involving neighbouring Brabant and Dutch Limburg, including the 80 Years' War, the War of the Spanish Succession, the War of the Austrian Succession, the 7 Years' War, and even the Brabant Revolution against the unpopular reforms of the Emperor Joseph II. During this period the region's episcopal government was often unable to maintain law and order, and the economy of the area was often desperately bad, affected by plundering by soldiers and gangs of thieves such as the Bockenriders. Nevertheless, the population contained strongly conservative Catholic elements, and not only supported the Brabant Revolution, but also rebelled unsuccessfully against the revolutionary French regime in the Peasants' War of 1798. Almost none of the modern Belgian or Dutch provinces of Limburg were ever part of the nearby Duchy of Limburg. Nevertheless, Limburg's modern name derives from this duchy, which originally centered upon the fortified castle town known as Limbourg, situated on the river Vesdre in the Ardennes, now in the Wallonian province of Liège. The modern Limburg region, containing the Belgian and Dutch provinces of that name, were first united within one province while under the power of revolutionary France, and later the Napoleonic Empire, but then under the name of the French Department of the Lower Meuse. Limbourg. The town was not in this region, but was neighbouring it, and there had been a political association. Following the Napoleonic era, the great powers, the United Kingdom, Prussia, the Austrian Empire, the Russian Empire and France, granted the region to the new United Kingdom of the Netherlands in 1815. A new province was formed and was to receive the name of Maastricht after its capital. The first king, William I, who did not want the name Limbourg to be lost, given its high status of being an ancient duchy, insisted that the name be changed to the province of Limburg. When both the Dutch and the French-speaking Catholic regions in the south of the new kingdom split away from the mainly Calvinist Dutch north in the Belgian Revolution of 1830, the province of Limburg was at first almost entirely under Belgian rule, and the status of both Limburg and Luxembourg became unclear. Leopold I took the oath as King of the Belgians on 21 July 1831. During the 10 Days Campaign, 2–12 August 1831, Dutch armies entered Belgium and took control of several cities, including Antwerp, in order to negotiate from a stronger position. Several Belgian militias and armies were easily defeated, including the Belgian Army of the Meuse, near Hasselt. On 8 August, a French army entered Belgium on 9 August. And the British also began to intervene, while the Netherlands, Prussian and Russian allies could not send support, leading to a ceasefire. In 1831 the Treaty of the 80 Articles in London established that both Limburg and Luxembourg would be split between the two states. In 1832 Antwerp was finally forced from Dutch hands. Finally, in 1839, under a new Treaty of London, Limburg and Luxembourg were split, Limburg being split into so-called Dutch Limburg and Belgian Limburg. It is only in border areas near Maastricht that either of the two modern Limburgs have any strong historical connection to the old duchy. For the most part this connection is only indirect. in the sense that a part of this area came to form a single detached territory under the Duchy of Brabant, thus ruled from its capital in Brussels. The so-called states, Staten, of Limburg and Overmaas. However, one small part of Belgian Limburg was really in the Duchy of Limburg, in the extreme east of Voeren. The villages of Tuven and Riemesdaal. 20th century. Like other parts of eastern Belgium, Belgian Limburg came under German domination in the early phases of both the First World War and the Second World War. In the Second World War, Limburg and the rest of Belgium was joined together with some Germanic parts of northern France. Under the military administration of Belgium and northern France, this was unlike the Netherlands and Norway, where non-military puppet governments were installed. The eventual Nazi plan was that Limburg would become part of the Greater Germanic Reich. Belgian Limburg became officially Flemish when all provinces in Belgium came under control of linguistically defined institutional regions in 1962. In the case of Voeren, surrounded by French-speaking parts of Belgium, and having a significant population of French speakers, this was not without controversy. Only in 1967, the Catholic Church created a bishopric of Hasselt, separate from the bishopric of Liège. See also, History of Flanders, Bibliography, Jappie Alberts, 1974, Geschiedenis van de beide Limburgen, Van Gorkum, Bonnie, Rick, 2009, Cadasters, Misconceptions in Northern Gaul, a case study from the Belgian Hespe region. Lamarck, Danny, Rog, Mark, 1996. De Talgrens, Van der Oude tot de Nieuwe Belgen. Davidsvans, Roymans, Nico, 2004. Ethnic Identity and Imperial Power. The Batavians in the Early Roman Empire. Amsterdam Archaeological Studies 10. ISBN 9789053567050. Van der Herven, Alan. Van der Herven, Michel. 2004. Confrontation in Archaeology. Aspects of Roman Military in Tongeren. In Vermeulen. Frank. Essays. Kathy. Dees. Wouter. Archaeology in Confrontation. Aspects of Roman Military Presence in the Northwest. Studies in honor of Professor M. Hugo Thone. Ghent University. p. 143. ISBN 9789038205786. Van Vinkenroy, Willy. 2001. Über Artu Echuca. Casa and Ambiorix. Belgian Archaeology in a European Setting. 2. ISBN 9789058671677. Whiteman, Edith Mary. 1985. Gallia Belgica. University of California Press. ISBN 9780520052970.